want to just kind of respond real quickly to that. One of the things that is a common complaint is that when your Tony Stewarts came up, when your Jeff Gordons came through, when your Bill Elliott's and Dale Seniors came through, these people had some kind of connection to the sport. People knew their story. People could relate to these people. They were their blue-collar, working under the shade tree mechanic, down and gritty driver. Today, people don't seem to have that connection anymore. They don't seem to know the story of these drivers. They just know that, Chase Elliott is Bill Elliott's son. They just know that, Alex Bowman took over the number 88 for Dale Jr. They don't know their stories. They're not as connected as they were years ago. And sure, this is some part of the car culture that has diminished in America over the years, but at the same time, the story isn't being told like it used to be. They're just not getting the drivers that connect not only to the fan base that's coming into the sport, but the fan base that is leaving the sport, because there's no more connection. There's no more story there. There's no more of that. I can relate to this person that is out there on the track. No, these guys are, and ladies and guys and whoever's out there today, they just know that they sit in these multi-million-dollar mansions and they get in a car for 3 hours on the weekend and, they race around the racetrack and they, very hurriedly, sign autographs and go on about their business. And if you're not in a suite, you really don't get any time with them. And we've lost that connection. And until that story can be retold again, until those connections can be remade again, I think this is going to be a continuous downward trend, not just in NASCAR, but in auto racing in general. You're losing a lot of these brand names. You're losing a lot of the people that used to come into the sport or are part of the sport, not only from the driver's aspect, but of fans and partners and sponsors and everybody else. And until we can reconnect with the common people, the common everyday people out there that are going to be the ones that are your customers to auto racing, then I think that we're just going to continue to see this. And I think this is just across all of auto racing in general.
That's right. We just need the common man with the common van with the doggy with the pedigree. Had to bring that song up, man, because you just basically sung the song. Remember that old country song? I'm just a common man with the common van. Anyway, my true calling was not America's Got Talent as far as singing goes. Steve Wilson, we appreciate you joining us this Father's Day weekend. Hope you have a great one, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon. Where can people find your work and your masterpieces, sir?
You can follow us at Speedway Digest on Twitter, Facebook.com/Speedway Digest, and SpeedwayDigest.com. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. And talk to you in a couple of weeks because I'm going to Florida.
All right, buddy. You enjoy it. All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Steve Wilson, editor and publisher of Speedway Digest. Love Steve's insight on things as well. Well, guys, as I've mentioned here in the show before, we've lost our commercial breaks. I don't know what happened, so if you're due for a commercial, just go ahead and take it and come on back. We're just going to keep on rolling through because joining us now is Matthew Hicks and grant-afseth. And we broke the internet this week, guys. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what's going on with, the rumors of LeBron James and Calvert, blah, 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 blah. Matt Hicks, happy Father's Day weekend to you, sir. How are you?
Hey, thanks. Same to you.
And grant-afseth joins us from he's a college student at Arizona State. He also is a columnist for the Kokomo Tribune for the Indiana Pacers, Indiana Player Development Analytics as well. Grant-afseth, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Now, are you back? Are you on summer break or?
I am. I'm back home in Dallas right now.
Okay, so you're in Dallas. It's going to be hot no matter where you're at, guys. I think it's supposed to be a balmy 100 degrees here in Indianapolis, and I didn't know if you were in Arizona, but it's always freaking hot in Arizona, and it's always freaking hot in Dallas. So, hey, and Matt, I know you're just right around the corner here from me, so we got us a hot weekend planned. Hot weekend for Father's Day. Well, we're going to go around the horn, guys. The Indianapolis Colts broke the internet this week. We'll start with you, Matt Hicks. This is not a drill. It is the real thing. Andrew Luck picked up a football in front of reporters and actually threw it. Yeah, it was a high school football, but, hey, we'll take what we can take. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, it's, you know what, though, and I think what was very wise of Andrew Luck, so whoever made the decision on, let's try to remember, that was Tuesday, correct, that he threw the high school ball?
Yeah, I believe it was Tuesday.
So he comes right out on Wednesday and throws the regulation ball. I thought that was smart. Let's squelch that right away. You know, it's a process for him. There's no shame in that. But of course, nationally, you heard right away, oh, he's not throwing a regulation ball. Is there a mental block? Is there something wrong in his head? And he came out that afternoon and did more work with the regulation ball. And I don't know if that was already planned or what, but I thought that was very telling. You know, as you know, I used to co-host a radio show in Indianapolis, and one of the things we did on what turned into being one of my final shows is we had a little break of about a month, and we made some predictions that we that we knew we didn't have to stand behind just for fun. And one of the things I said, and I said it tongue in cheek, but it would not shock me, as I said that Andrew Luck would be the MVP of the NFL. Now that's obviously like 16 miles down the road, but if he has a great season and they win 10 or 11 games, again, 16 miles down the road, who's to say what the rest of this roster is going to turn out to be like, and if he can even play a full season. But you have to think that the Colts are in excellent shape, and the sky's the limit to some extent. Now, the roster is very damaged, and we know that. But the offensive line should be better. The quarterback position should be a major upgrade if he can stay healthy and is in the right mindset. So you're right, it broke the internet, and it was kind of a bit of a surprise because we were really hearing that we probably wouldn't see him throw a football until training camp. But from a PR standpoint, from the Colts, it was a very wise move, and somebody deserves an awfully big pat on the back, whether it's Andrew Luck or Chris Ballard or Frank Reich or you know, whoever in public relations. Somebody deserves a big pat on the back because the confidence level in this team and this fandom in Central Indiana has risen immensely in the last 3 days.
Oh, absolutely, and I tell you what, the buzz is still going on. Grant-afseth, thanks for joining us. Give us your insight on Andrew Luck throwing a football this week.
Well, I think it was great to see because I share some content about the Colts sometimes on Indiana sports coverage, and just seeing the comments of Colts fans, you know, just being really excited just for like a simple video of Andrew Luck throwing a high school football. That was really cool to see because, you know, there was a lot of negativity, you know, leading up through this off season. You know, we won't see Andrew Luck throw a football. He might be done, you know, those types of comments. But then, like, there's just a huge, like, uproar of positivity. And I think that was a really good decision to have him throw for the media because now, you know, you can boost your ticket sales and there's reason for positivity again.
Matt, you know, we listened to the presser from Andrew Luck, and I'm glad that he finally got out and he started talking about it. And, you know, the thing about it is you could tell in his voice that he was a lot more confident. He sounded a lot like the Andrew Luck that we knew, you know, a year ago or so, and the way that he talked and the way that he presented himself. So I was impressed by that. But at the same time, you could definitely tell in his voice and the way that he answered questions that he's still a little, maybe anxious is the word for it, but he's still not back to Andrew Luck. But I think we saw some positive signs, and it was great that he finally took some time to get out and talk to the media.
Well, yeah, and I think that, again, whoever's decision that was, just from a general confidence standpoint for Colts fans, was huge. You're right. I think anxious is probably the right word, and maybe a little bit of nervousness. I mean, listen, when you haven't played in a year and a half, I mean, I'm sure you're going to be a little both anxious and nervous. But what I noticed, and maybe I've read this wrong, but what I noticed is the energy. I mean, this is a guy that was pumped up to be in camp, pumped up to be throwing to his receivers. He injected energy into that team. You saw it when they talked to other players afterwards. I think I heard it on the radio, Ryan Grant just, being so excited to be there with Luck. And he said I'll get the quote wrong, but he said something like, this is like a musician going to work with Kanye or something like that. I mean, this is huge, So the fact that his receiver core, his offense is that excited that he's back, I think speaks volumes. He's not a super vocal leader, but he's and Grant, you'll be able to appreciate this. I think he's kind of like a Reggie Miller kind of leader. Very much leads by example, does the right thing, always prepared and ready to go. And not having him on the field in the locker room for the last essentially year, I think has taken its toll on this team just as much as anything else. I mean, yeah, on the field is huge, and we can sit and talk. What is that? A 6-win differential? Is it 7? I don't know the answer to that, but I do know in the locker room itself, when they're trying to rebuild a culture right now, which as it appears they're trying to do, having him backing around on a daily basis is enormous.
Grant, let's talk a little bit about the Colts draft pick, their first round draft pick, and I think I give them a passive grade on this year's draft. They have to build from the draft. They didn't fix all the holes, but they certainly have taken a lot of things and put a lot of things in place to help protect Andrew Luck, which is very, very important.
Absolutely. I think the number one priority was getting some foundational offensive lineman pieces, and that's obviously what you get with Quentin Nelson being one of the best, if not the best, lineman prospect that people have seen in a long time. And I think a lot of these picks, I noticed some of the feedback for some of those later round picks was, that they weren't the flashiest of selections, but you have to build the trenches on both sides of the ball to start out. And Chris Ballard made comments about that throughout the offseason leading up to the draft about how they want to focus on bolstering the trenches. And I think that's something that Indianapolis really needed, and that should really help if a variety of those guys can turn out to be impact players. And you can't really build it all in one offseason. I think the number one thing is to have patience with that because, solidifying the trenches this offseason is key, and then focusing on those other areas in the following offseason and the offseason after that is where you really start to see the progress. And it's not like they didn't have a lot of pieces in general either. You have T.Y. Hilton as a target, and a healthy Andrew Luck also makes guys look better in general too, as long as they're not dropping passes.
Well, absolutely. And, Matt, I want to get your thoughts on – guys, I want to get your opinion on something here, and then we'll get on over to the NBA talk because I know everybody wants to talk about LeBron James and where he's going to end up at. But also, certainly, I want to talk a little bit about the Pacers, what a great year they had. But one of the questions I want to get answered, talked about, I know we've talked it to death. The thing about it is sports used to be a thing that brought us together, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is. Sports was something that brought us together. It seems like it's become such a polarizing thing now. And what I'm specifically speaking of, and I think you guys know where I'm going with this, is the kneeling. The NFL had to do something. Had to do something. And so they passed a rule that says that if you're going to kneel on the field, you're going to get penalized, or you have to stay in the locker room. What we're going to see is teams as a whole stay in the locker room. Okay, I'm okay with that. That's really kind of how it used to be. They didn't come out on the field until after the national anthem. Then we have issues. Now, again, this is not a left or right side of the token. I think if anybody knows me knows where I'm at on this side of it. But you've got your proverbial Trump haters. We're going to make this all about Trump, okay? They made a big issue about Trump. He didn't disinvite anybody to the White House. There was only like